We are going to have a lot of fun together.
Well, he's back.
Finally, you can prove yourself as warrior.
Greetings, stranger. I'm dead.
What do you want, you fleshless freak?
Greetings, Sir Daniel Fortescue.
Whenever Valve does anything outside of Steam that isn't related directly to Half-Life 3, people get absolutely fucking livid. This is no new phenomenon either. Delving into my mind, this dates back to at least Left 4 Dead 2, where its E3 2009 announcement created an absurd amount of backlash that's hard to believe even happened since the zombie shooter sequel became a massive hit. Speaking of which, even Portal 2 was unsafe from the wrath of jilted Half-Life fans who review bombed and tore into an even more fondly remembered game for the crime of not starring a quiet but violent theoretical physicist. And that's just rage going back as far as the last decade. In the years since, there have been pranks, winky-faced allusions from Valve, but nothing concrete. Half-Life 3, or, for pedants like me who expected what we were told to expect, Half-Life 2 Episode 3, has been a ghost for so long I was still living in England when the last installment occurred. Since then, we have very little evidence Valve is even making the game. The only thing truly keeping talk of its death at bay is the fact Valve hasn't officially announced its cancellation. Which, ultimately, I think it should just go ahead and do. There's a phrase I'm sure we're all well aware of: shit or get off the pot. The problem is, the time for shitting was maybe 5 years ago. The anticipation, just the build for Half-Life 3 is older than fucking Skyrim. And Skyrim has been re-released exactly 72 times since it launched. That's an exact figure. By this point, people should be more bored hearing about it than they were hearing about Duke Nukem Forever, before Gearbox dragged that broken nightmare out of its hell palace for all of us to be horrified at. Unfortunately, people aren't bored, they're mad. They're still so very, very mad. In August 2017, former Valve writer Mark Laidlaw reignited the fires of fury after releasing a plotline for the Half-Life 3 that never was. Laidlaw simply called it fanfic, but it nonetheless made people talk about the game once more. A game Valve used to candidly mention itself, but has been quieter and quieter about as the name Half-Life 3 has become a meme, and the company clearly has fuck all to show for itself. But it was a more recent announcement that really hammered home just how much we as a group and Valve as a publisher need to put Half-Life 3 to bed. Just let it go. In case you missed it, and I couldn't blame you since it was rather low-key, a new Portal spin-off game was announced for computers and mobile, with a year-end release date and console versions expected in 2018. To say fans were livid is, well, we're talking about Half-Life fans. What do you think happened? Some thought it merely a cruel practical joke, and after being on tenterhooks for so many years, with Valve concentrating heavily on Steam instead of game development, I can see why you'd view a licensed out bridge builder game as some sort of elaborate, albeit sure to be lucrative, gag. Bridge Constructor Portal's trailer has its likes and dislikes hidden, and I have a feeling I know why, while the Half-Life subreddit is currently the textual embodiment of the 5 stages of grief. Some are in denial, thinking this alludes to greater things, others remain staunchly angry, yet more others have just come to accept it, and I think acceptance is truly the path toward happiness for Half-Life fans the world over. Now, I'm not saying a new Half-Life game will never come, I'd not make so bold a prediction, but at this late, late stage in proceedings. I honestly think it would be better if it never did come. If Valve just admitted it didn't care much for making games anymore, then Half-Life fans in suspense could just move the fuck on with their lives. Maybe they can join me in asking for more Shadow Hearts games. I mean, there's even less of a chance of us ever seeing Shadow Hearts again, but at least I've made my peace with that. I definitely have. I fucking have! We gotta be honest about Half-Life 3. The time where such a game could have avoided immeasurable pressure and a level of unbeatable hype is done. Long ago done. Even if it comes out and it's great, there's no way it could reach a level of pure amazement equitable to the expectations and emotional investment people have pumped into the franchise. That's one prediction I am bold enough to make, because if Titanfall could hype itself into an unwinnable position over the course of 1 fucking year, the 10 fucking years of build we've had for Half-Life 3 is positively lethal. We gotta be honest about Valve. Right now, the Steam platform holder is refining the art of making as much money as possible for as little human work, and for the time being that's paid off. Valve holds a de facto monopoly over PC game distribution. It's not the only option, but with such a presence in the market it may as well be, and Valve's learned that being the face of PC games distribution pays significantly more than making PC games themselves. On one hand, I can't blame Valve for taking an easier road to greater gains. On the other, fuck 'em, they should cancel Half-Life 3, or no, actually no, there isn't an or in this situation. Valve should cancel Half-Life 3, or Half-Life 2 Episode 3, or whatever the fuck, just cancel it. Cancel it off, give all its licenses to companies that still want to make games and be shot of it, especially given what Valve thinks of quality control these days. Frankly, I'd rather see Left 4 Dead, Portal and Half-Life in the hands of people who might actually give a flying fuck. I'm long past the point of thinking there's any value to be had in getting mad over a silly Portal spin-off game, or indeed anything Valve does that isn't Half-Life 3. No, it's not Half-Life 3, but you know what? Nothing will be Half-Life 3. Not even an officially licensed Half-Life 3 would be Half-Life 3 now, not the one you have in your head, not the one you've had a decade to build for and anticipate and drool over. And it's been 10 years, it won't be the same Half-Life that Valve had planned to make. Unless it's licensed out with a complete from-scratch presentation, I don't know if Valve personally dragging what has long since felt like a corpse out at the next E3 or any E3 is what any of us actually truly want. I could only foresee the epitome of the be careful what you wish for scenario. This video is no call at all for Valve to finally shit or get off the pot. Like I said, we skipped the shit phase. Valve's bowels are so stopped up any potential shit inside of them has petrified. There are only rocks clattering around in Valve's rectum now, rocks and heaps upon heaps of cash. There is no put up or shut up left, there's only shut up. Shut up, Valve! And Valve knows it, too. Gabe Newell's marked decrease in Half-Life 3 referencing seems evidence enough that they know it's too late for the putting and the shutting's all it's got left. Or alternatively, we could just torture ourselves even further and say that Newell's being quiet to build anticipation for a huge surprise Half-Life 3 announcement. We could rake our souls over the coals of disappointment again and believe in our heartiest of hearts that Bridge Constructor Portal is a secret nod to Half-Life 3's imminent announcement. Maybe even imminent launch without an announcement. How exciting would that be? How amazing would it be if Portal's wacky bridge building bollocks was secretly an ARG that, when beat, unlocked a trailer for Gordon Freeman's next daring escapade? Like Silent Hills, that's what it definitely is, isn't it, Valve? Oh, glory be to the God King Gaben, that's what it is. Bridge Constructor's an ARG, everybody. It's an ARG!
You're going to have a lot of fun together.
You see where that line of thinking gets us? Madness. Madness and stupidity. And it must stop. Valve, get your ass up off that little plastic potty and don't bother wiping, because we know nothing came out of Uranus. Just make the call, friend, come on. Put the bullet in Freeman's head and go on to making more money. Let everybody just move on. Unless that's what you want me to think and this is all a trick. As badassedly eye-patched 90s songstress Gabrielle put it, dreams can come true, and who am I to shit on your dreams? Half-Life 3 may come out. Half-Life 3 may be everything you want it to be, and or more. I'm just saying, don't toddle off to Ladbrokes and put money on it, okay? Now, let's talk about Patreon. As many of you know, the Jimquisition has been successfully funded on Patreon for many years. Thank you all for your continued support. If you have supported previously and don't anymore, I still thank you. If you just watched the show, I hope you have a good time. It's a very good show. But Patreon recently made some changes, in fact very recently. As of later this month, they're going to start charging patrons more. I mean, that's the brass tacks simple version of it. Yeah, let's just be direct. They're going to be giving people a 2.9% fee, as well as a straight 35-cent fee, which, if you're already giving like $100 to someone, you're not going to feel so much. But if you're one of the many people who do $1 donations, which is sort of the lifeblood of a stable Patreon campaign, it's a massive hike. And it seems inherently designed to punish those people. And I like Patreon a lot. Patreon's been very supportive on a personal as well as an impersonal level. And it's the reason this show has flourished. And I love it, I truly do. But, as I just push my glove back into my sleeve, I have to warn you that I think you've really ballsed this up, and keeping your head in the sand ain't helping matters. Now, I had to do my Jimquisition episode before I went away on a trip this weekend, so the video isn't fully Patreon themed like you might expect. It's why we're doing it here in the ending. I don't even want to do this. I don't want to shit on Patreon, and I really do think that somewhere in their minds they did think this was a good idea people would love, but that worries me, because no marketing department would look at a company saying, hey, we're about to raise your fees for no extra service, and you're not really going to quite understand why, and you're going to love it. I don't know how any marketing department looks at that sales pitch. In December, where Patreon drops off anyway, patrons go away because it's the holidays and they've got costs to think of. So to do it this month of all months as well, it's just such a breathe and calm down, Jim, we're being reasonable today. It is a clumsy and ill-advised approach, and people have been asking me in great quantities whether or not there's another way to throw money at me. I mean, you could always buy one of the t-shirts, they're quite good, but I'll be perfectly honest, Patreon, if you're watching. In fact, I know you are. I know some of you are. I am looking right now at other avenues of funding. You know, if you tell us we get 95% of everything we get now, but as I've said in response to this already before, 95% of fuck all is fuck all. So I'm looking at other crowdfunding platforms, I'm looking at other ways people can support the show, and I don't want to have to do that. And I certainly don't want to have to do a Jimquisition. We're being reasonable. Fact of the matter is, while I don't think, or at least I like to not think, that there's any malice involved in what you're doing, and I do think that you believe this to be the solution, when push comes to shove, I jump. You can ask Destructoid. You can ask the Escapist. When push comes to shove, I ain't gonna let you push me off the cliff. I'll jump, and I'll have a parachute, because I'm Jim fucking Sterling, son. And if you don't sort this out, if you keep your head in the sand, then I will go through you with razor wire. And you'll have funded that. You'll have helped me buy the razor wire. So, fix your shit, because that ain't good enough. Thank God for me. I think I kept it contained. I think I kept the level of outrage at the sheer absurdity of it contained. For now.